I'm going to try to make this video brief, but I wanted to highlight a few things on the syllabus in our online week so that next week on September 9th when we meet, we can briefly talk about it if needed. I can answer any questions you have, but you'll already have heard me talk about it through the video, and that'll save us some time when we're together next week. You know that you can ask me questions anytime. I looked at the class list and I've had all of you previously, some of you from multiple courses, so I hope at this point you're comfortable asking me questions and emailing me, and you know that I don't really give surprises, at least I don't think I do, and things are pretty straightforward, so you shouldn't feel nervous about anything because I promise you I'll give you enough information before you need it. So the goal of our course is to explore the science and social studies standards for K-5 through somewhat of a language arts lens, looking at the idea of integrating those content areas because there's not always time given to them separately, unfortunately, and we'll talk some about that. And often, especially in elementary school, they take an integrated approach. So we want to look at, well, how can we teach science and social studies, but also bring in language arts? And we'll do that, especially when we're on campus, we'll do that through a lot of hands-on experiences that you can use in your classroom. And that's one of the reasons I love this course, is because I think it's fun, it's practical, and you can take all of the ideas I share with you right into your classroom, so you already have kind of a toolbox of ideas to use. I'm going to skip over all this logistical information, mostly because I've had all of you. I think you know where my office is, you know that you can email me anytime, and I usually will get back to you quickly. So if you have any questions about the logistical stuff, let me know, but I think for the most part we're on the same page for that. You can read through all this stuff, and I'm just going to skip to some of the important things I want to highlight. One being there's no textbook for this course. I'll provide any readings that you'll have, but the majority of what we do is going to be more of a hands-on, either experience an activity or you're making something that you would use in your classroom. I wrote on here that it would be helpful if you could bring a device to class, especially for accessing standards or something that I want to show you. You might want to look at the same time, but it's not required. It's just something that's nice to have. You can read through the outcomes for the course and the standards and so forth. There are two really major components of your grade for this course, and then the third one's just attendance and participating and having a positive attitude. But the first two are the main things that we'll look at. The first one being your field experience. For most of you, I think that you are on the brink of student teaching. This course is very close to the end of your progress through the program. So at this point, you should be ready to start teaching in the classroom. So that is why we will be teaching a learning segment, which is a small unit. And learning segment is a term that comes from EdTPA. So part of what we're doing is preparation for EdTPA, which you'll do during student teaching. And I'll be introducing some of that in this course. And we're going to not only plan a 2 to 3 day learning segment, but you're going to teach that in a classroom. And that will either be in a classroom that's assigned by Dr. Beam, or it will be in your own classroom if you already have one. So because we're so close to student teaching and it's a 2 to 3 day session of teaching, we've decided that you can do it in your own classroom if you already have one. So we'll talk more about that, especially if you don't have your own classroom. Where is that going to occur? And she is willing to talk to you about where you might be student teaching in the spring, if that's what your plan is. we might be able to get you in there in the fall and you can start meeting the students and teach this learning segment. But we'll see. We'll plan all that out and we'll talk about it. But just know that that is a large part of your grade, is that the teaching of that little unit. And of course, because our goal for the course is science and social studies exploration, you're going to be teaching either a science learning segment with language arts integrated or a social studies learning segment with language arts integrated. And of course, we'll talk more about that in class. You're also going to be writing a planning commentary and an instruction commentary, and those are in place of observation reflections. I think at this point in your progression through the program, you've written enough observation reflections. You don't need to do that anymore. Instead, we need to start looking at how can you prepare for student teaching. And one way to prepare for student teaching is to understand EdTPA, because that's a large component of whether or not you'll get your license. So I want to expose that to you now. I want you to practice it while it's still low stakes. I'm here to help you because I want you to do well on it. And so that'll be those 15% of your grade. And I'm going to show that to you. I'm going to show you examples. I'm going to teach you how to write it. So you don't need to worry about that. That'll all occur during this semester, but it is an important part of your grade because then you'll go into student teaching feeling much more prepared for that part of achieving your license. Then number 2, I think is fun because we'll be doing a couple, at least 2, maybe more, little mini projects that will all be things that you could use right in your classroom. So if you're already in a classroom, you can make it for your current students and then use it immediately. If you're not in a classroom, you'll make it for your hypothetical students and hopefully use it once you're with them. But these are things I find very practical and helpful in terms of thinking about differentiation, and something that you'll really be able to use immediately, which I think at this point, in the program, you're ready to have stuff that you can use in your classroom. You've done enough theory and observing, and now it's time to get ready for your classroom. So I'll explain more about that as we get to it. I'll be modeling it. We'll do it together in the class, in our Salem classroom, and I'll model it, and then you'll make your own. So you'll know what to do when the time comes. And then attendance and, dispositions. Doing well is one thing, but also having a good attitude and being positive about being a teacher is also important, and that's where dispositions come into play. Okay, at this point, the grading scale policies you can read through. I will work with you as long as you communicate with me. That's really important. Don't leave me hanging. Don't just disappear. If you have an issue, let me know, and most times I will be fine to work with you. Okay, last thing that I want to point out is our schedule. And as always, I write tentative schedule, and you know that I try not to change it in a way that will hurt you or make you frustrated. If I do change it, hopefully it'll be something that will help you. This was a little bit difficult for me because I've had to change around the format of the course a little bit. So we might have to shift some of these readings, and if we do, then don't worry, I'll make sure you have enough time for that. I also put in some tentative due dates for mini projects you'll see in the bold, and that might need to change, and if it does, it would just be to give you more time. It wouldn't be to give you less time. But you'll see that I've marked online or on campus. We'll alternate those since it's a hybrid course. When we're online, we won't meet at the same time, but you will have videos to watch, sometimes of me modeling something. So just be prepared, that you are going to have stuff to do during the online times. It's not just a free week off. And the stuff to do will be really important to make sure you prepare for the next week when we jump into doing something in the classroom. So you do need to take those online weeks seriously, and some of the heavier reading might occur during that time as well. So the bold, these mini projects, I will explain to you as we get to them. Like the tiered activity, I'm going to do one in class and model it for you. You're going to watch some videos on it, and you'll be prepared to do it by the time we get there. And same with this text set project. So don't worry about those until we get a little bit closer. And you see the big chunk of your assignments are due at the end. But they all can be turned in early depending on when you teach your learning segment. So we'll talk about that. I made them do it then just so I could give you as much time as possible to get your learning segment taught. But I absolutely don't want you to wait till December because we all know, with holiday stuff that occurs between Thanksgiving and Christmas, it's just difficult sometimes to teach a little unit like that. So ideally, you would be done teaching before Thanksgiving, but I'm giving you a little bit of extra time to finish writing everything up if needed. So you see there aren't that many things due, but the things that are due are a little bit bigger, so you'll need more time to complete them. So I'm going to send you an email about this, but this first week, I don't know if I put this in the right spot. It might be here, but either way, this stuff is what we're going to do the first week, and you need to have it done before you come to campus on the 9th. So it really kind of goes in both sections. And I'm going to explain all of this to you in an email, but we're going to have all this done before we come to campus on the 9th. And the introduction to the syllabus, that's pretty straightforward, and I'll still explain it in the email. There's one chapter to read, and that is in that week 1 in Moodle, which will be open to you by the time you watch this video. And then I want you to go ahead and start reading the EdTPA handbook for your licensure area. And I know at this point you're probably thinking, why do I have to read that? I'm not really going to read it. Please read it, because this is something that's going to help you prepare for these later assignments down here. And the more you read it, the better prepared you're going to be for student teaching. And when you get to student teaching, there's so much stuff that's going to weigh on your shoulders. And the last thing you want to add extra weight is EdTPA. And so the more you can understand it and feel prepared for it, the easier it is going to be to complete it during student teaching. So I want you to read this. I'm in the process of moving all this stuff over to Moodle. At this point, all of it is still in EDU 2.0. So you still have access to that. You can go into EDU 2.0 and you'll go to that class, which I think I have up. You'll go to the class called this one, Salem EdTPA Resources Teacher Candidates. And it should show up in your classes because you all either had me or you had Dr. Lambert for instructional design. So you should be added to that course. And then you'll go to resources by licensure area and you'll find yours. Now, the majority of you will be choosing elementary. Some of you will be choosing special ed. And I think one of you might be math. So we'll need to look at that for this learning segment. We'll talk through that, Brittany. But for the most part, you know where you'll be, and you need to read the handbook. So if I go to elementary, I'm going to go to where the handbook is, and I'm going to read it. And at this point, some of it may seem foreign to you, and that's okay. Just go ahead and start so that when I talk about it in class, I don't get too many blank looks. Okay, so let me know if you have questions. I'm going to send an email that explains what you're supposed to do this week. One of those things being to watch this video, and then we'll talk more about it in class on the 9th. I'm looking forward to seeing you.